All right, everybody. I'm here with Gary Hagan. Hey, Gary.
How you doing?
I'm great. How are you today?
All right.
Cool. So, Gary's been in the business for over 40 years, and you're the broker at your own company, Hagan Real Estate, here in Cincinnati. You also do Dayton, Ohio. Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. We were talking, and I'm thinking that as real estate changes, we as realtors are going to need to know a little bit more. So I think it would be helpful. There's a lot of ways to sell a house, not just like traditional way of like getting a loan from a bank or and then buying it or paying cash. Can you talk to us a little bit more about some of the creative financing ways and creative ways to buy a house?
Sure. Um, we're sitting in a market right now where uh, it's pretty easy to sell a house,
Yeah,
and people are lined up to buy them. But when I started in 1978, interest rates were 19-20%. Uh,
that's
Traditional ways
crazy.
of buying a house just simply didn't work.
Right.
So we had to learn to get outside the box and come up with other ways because people still had to move, people were still
Right.
retiring, people still had to sell their homes.
Right.
So we found a bunch of different ways to do that, and it really kind of depends on the market. When the market crashed, um, there were a number of people that were upside down, owners,
Hmm.
homeowners,
Yeah.
and there were a number of buyers or potential buyers that had horrible credit because of the market
Having to,
crash
right.
and
Exactly. As a
everything.
resut, right. Because that affected your credit for a few years.
So we had a situation that was pretty awful.
Hmm.
But we took the best parts of that and were able to do. Um, I did quite a few. I probably did, oh gosh, 50 or more lease purchases during that time. And that's where we would enter into a purchase contract to buy it under the terms of a lease purchase option. The buyer had to put down a down payment that did go towards the purchase price.
Hmm.
And then the seller had he had something right now, and he would also receive rent every month.
Right.
And to incentivize the buyer to pay on time, we would give him $100 a month credit towards principal if he got his rent in on or before the first of the month.
And closed on the date that was already decided.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The money would all happen like 2 years hence or
Right.
whenever that was.
Right.
So you had um, somebody with bad credit. I would have my credit guys working with him to take the steps that needed to be taken. Usually it takes a couple years.
Yeah.
Plus his rent payments because we were logging them.
Right. And
Uh,
that's show, yeah, great.
that helped too. And during the end of that time, we were able to get a lot of these people actually qualified. And also during that time, as the homeowner paid his loan down,
Hmm.
he got a little bit closer to what the market value was, and the market, it gave the market a couple years to recover too.
Right.
And we closed, I mean, a high percentage of those. Um,
Yeah, I think that's a really good way. That could also work with people that own their own business and maybe they've only been in business for like a year and the lender's requiring 2 years. I think like on the ones that we've done, we actually run a background check just like we would for a tenant. And we have them, like you did, talk to the lender because we want to know what is the reason they can't qualify for a loan like something simple, like is it just a credit issue?
oh yeah, yeah. We were very selective in our tenants. Not everybody was right for that situation. Some people, were habitually horrible credit.
Right.
We're not going to
It's
be
not
able to
going to
help.
work. Right. Do you have a
But, you know,
pattern? Like, do you believe you're going to get your money is the
yeah,
real now, but we distinguished between a lease option and a lease purchase. Do you distinguish between that?
they're essentially the same thing.
Okay.
They have the option to purchase at that price.
Got it. And the purchase price, if people don't know, is agreed upon upfront, and so is
Correct.
the purchase, and the date is also, so it's on or before. Now, the only issue that I've run into with that, assuming that you pick the right person, is that you have to be careful of how much money you are collecting, because if they pay in a certain amount, then you have to foreclose instead of evict,
Uh,
correct?
no.
No?
If you do a lease purchase, you're operating strictly under the terms of a lease.
Got it. So that's like a
That's the
land
reason we
contract.
do that. We do not
I
do a
see.
land contract for
Okay.
that very reason, because in a land contract, they're actually on title.
Yeah. You
You
don't want
have
to
to
do
go through,
that.
no, it's a bad idea. Uh,
That makes sense. Okay. So we have the lease purchase slash lease option. And now let's talk about the land contract. So they're on
yeah,
title.
the land contract, you know, we've done those. Um, and there, if a seller wants to carry the financing, then a land contract might be an appropriate way to go there. It protects both of the parties because you don't want to have the person buying the place put all this money in there and then have something funny go sideways and he can't close and he's lost his money.
Right.
So there's protections on both sides.
So that could sounds like it might work better if there's no mortgage, or does it matter?
Well, yeah, typically there's no mortgage
There's
in
no
that
mortgage, right?
situation. And in the, you know, in the old days when we used to do this, there were used to be due on sale clauses.
Right.
Do you think any lender in their right mind, when everything's being foreclosed upon, is going to foreclose on somebody that's paying?
No.
No, it never
Hell no.
happened. It never happened. So we never had that. I had people, oh, we're so afraid this. No, it won't happen.
It
That just,
won't.
why in the world would you foreclose on somebody that's making their regular payments in a world where nobody is?
Right, silly, silly. But I think it's good to know as a real estate agent that because most of us know, regular sale or like rent, but these are kind of things that are like in the middle of that. And depending on the situation, could actually work better for the buyer and seller.
Yeah, they could. If the seller's looking for, you know, they've got a lot of equity, they don't want to have a big capital gain for whatever
That's
reason,
exactly what I was going to say, capital gains. Yeah.
then they can enjoy a pretty decent rate of return, you know, much higher maybe than they would get, certainly than a money market or something like that. But,
Right.
and the market wasn't always the way it is today.
Right.
You know, it used to go up and it used to go way down. So I've seen all of that happen. So if you've got a decent interest rate and they're earning that,
Yeah.
they're usually happy to do that. And you're dealing sometimes with a, like you said, a buyer that maybe can't qualify. They're a business owner. They don't have enough documentation to, you know, to qualify for a conventional loan.
Right.
But if you take a look at it, it's all about um, getting the right parties when you do these things.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you the mechanics of how to do it, but
Yeah.
you just can't run out and do it.
No.
You have to really, really be like super careful. And I had a, you know, a whole procedure that I went through to vet people. I made sure that that I set up things where I made it incumbent on them to contact me at some certain point or
Mm-hmm.
to initiate something, you know, in other words, where they had to take action. So I'm not chasing somebody that doesn't
Right.
call me back. It's like I've got somebody that's wanting to do this bad enough that they're jumping through a few hoops
Exactly. Yeah.
to make it happen. Also, we pick somebody that You know, if you had somebody that's had good credit, all of a sudden everything goes to pot,
What happened?
you know.
Right.
So I want to see, all right, well, what's the story? What happened?
Right.
Well, if you've got a good story and say, well, you know, my child was, you know, sick and I had all these hospital bills and I had to quit my job and be with them to do home care and all this kind of stuff,
Right.
and I got way behind. But now I'm back at work, and you know, I've got my money starting to come back in, but it's going to take me a while to catch up.
Right.
I'll take that
Okay.
person all day long
Right.
because they know what it's like to do it right. They had a
Mm-hmm.
problem. We're going to help them
Right.
solve the. I like to help people do that, and um, and that's why I think we had so much success. Is we were working with people that really, really, really wanted to. Um, you know, they were sick and tired of being having horrible credit, and they were sick and tired of having problems,
Yeah.
and they would do anything that it took.
They were ready.
Yeah.
What about you had told me a story about like funding the repairs and that with the houses with equity.
Yeah. Now that's not anything to do with creative financing like we're talking
But
about.
it's creative.
um, but I did have a situation where I got a phone call from um, a seller who was out of state. He was in
Mm-hmm.
Indiana, and he called me basically to help him with a foreclosure because
Mm-hmm.
he was way past due on his payments. And of course, I want to know what happened.
Right.
And he bought a house in the Mainville area where I live and work, and he uh, left to do some in-depth training that would qualify him for a newer high-paying job, which he did, and he successfully did that.
Okay.
But he rented his house in the meantime, okay?
Okay.
And everything was fine until his tenant
Until it
declared
wasn't.
bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm facing a tenant that's gone through bankruptcy or that's going through bankruptcy. And I'm going, oh my gosh, how are we going to get this person out? And anyway, I was able to talk to her attorney, and she was actually in the process. She was knew she had to move, and she was moving. So
Okay, great.
fortunately, we had that going for us.
Yeah, that's good.
That was the good news. The bad news is the house was totaled.
Mm.
She had 5 dogs,
Oh,
and they had peed on every square inch of that house.
that's
Uh,
gross.
you know, even the baseboards were swelled up. I mean, it was bad. And um, I the seller came down, the owner came down, you know, and I went through the house with them, and I said, we gotta fix this. You know, there's no way it's going to sell like this.
Right.
I thought there was a chance based on what the numbers were and what he owed and what the market was. I thought he might be able to break even, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
And he said, no, I'm going to be in foreclosure. Can you do a short sale, anything just to get me out of this? I have no money
Yeah.
and I have no credit because I've not been paying my mortgage on time. So we tried to, I took him to Lowe's to see if he could get a credit card. No,
No.
that didn't happen. So I wound up, after looking at the numbers, I went, this guy's got some significant equity if we can retail this house, but we can't do
Not in
it
the condition that it's in.
condition.
Right.
So I got a contractor's card with a pretty good size line of credit, and so I said to him, you know, I'll list this, and I think it was a God thing too. I think the good Lord put us together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm usually where I'm supposed to be when stuff like this happens.
Yeah.
And he'd been praying about it too. So I looked at it. I looked at the numbers. He signed a listing agreement with me. I charged a premium commission because I was taking a big risk.
Right.
but I agreed to front the repairs.
Wow.
So I put my crew in there, um, and I was able to um, work with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I got the house. I mean, it had to be, pretty well gutted and put back.
Yeah, it did. Probably. Oh God, the smell. I can't even imagine.
Well, it was gone when we were finished. It was,
Nice.
all new woodwork and baseboards,
Yeah.
carpet, everything was done.
Kills everywhere.
Yeah, everything was in tip-top shape. So we put it on the market and sold it in a matter of a couple days
Nice.
in multiple offers. And I got paid, like I said, a premium commission, plus I recovered all the money that I
Right. And he
money.
didn't have to foreclose.
Right.
Right.
And he walked away from closing with $32,000.
Nice. That's
And when I
great.
saw that happen, I just said, this is, there are probably other people that are in a similar situation. I started doing that with some of my other clients that didn't have the money to, to get a house ready. And if there was equity and it made sense,
Yeah.
I would do that. And I've done that a number of times. And
Yeah.
Everybody wound up benefiting. So
Yeah. I mean, my biggest takeaway from our conversation is just like there, let's like get creative and just look at each situation and say, okay, what could I happen here? Like, what are the ways to get this done that benefits all parties? Because it's oftentimes more than just like regular, like put it on the market, sell it. Like there's more to it.
yeah, I've never looked at it any other way. And to me, the essence of good business is it's got to be a good deal for everybody.
I agree. Yeah,
Nobody
for
gets
sure.
nobody gets screwed. Nobody gets the short
Right.
end of the stick. It's like it's got to make sense for buyer, seller. It's got to make sense for everybody.
Everyone.
Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And and there's usually a way to put it together.
There
If
is.
you focus on um, making sure that everybody benefits from the transaction, because everyone will work for the transaction if
Right.
everyone
If
benefits.
everyone benefits, that's true. But it does require that us as agents that we have to listen to see like what the clients are saying. We also have to look around and see what they're not saying, ask
Mhm.
questions to try to dig deeper so we can fully understand like the whole picture
Right,
of what's going on. I mean, you don't just somebody calls you and they're like, I want to sell the house. You don't just necessarily go there and list it. You ask them, where are you moving? What's prompting the sale? Like you ask questions. So like
right,
asking those questions and coming up with a plan that really works, you
right.
know?
And it's like I had a listing appointment today. I've had other ones, and here I am, an agent that's having a hard time keeping listings in this market because
Yeah, everyone is.
yeah, everyone is having a hard time. And I'm telling both of these people, don't list your house right now
Gary.
because they don't have a place to go.
Yeah,
They're
right.
having a house built out of town, and it's not going to be ready till October. Why in the world would you sell now?
Well, unless they had another place to go to
They don't.
uh, excuse
And
me, they could do like the rent back or something like that, maybe.
yeah, but in this kind of
That's
crazy
pretty
market,
long.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just say, look, when you get a little bit closer to knowing what it is you're going to do on your end, then it will make, that's
Yeah,
the reason
because
there's no inventory. It's
right.
because a lot of people are in this situation. They know if they sell, it's going to go right away.
Mhm.
And then where am I going to go?
But
So,
some people are selling and then like living with other people or family so
if
that
you
they can
can do
take
that,
advantage of the market now,
mhm,
selling high. And then because real estate is cyclical, when the prices come down, they can take advantage and
yeah,
buy low.
yeah. If somebody's got a setup like that where they can move into the family, they've got another place, a second home that they can use for a while.
Right.
They're they just have to have a definite place to go before you put it on the market. And then we can, if it's done properly, you can save double moves and all this other stuff.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I really appreciate you being on. You have a lot of experience, and that's awesome. If people have a referral for you, what is the best way to get a hold of you?
Just my email there, Gary@soliddeals.com.
Easy enough. Thanks a lot, Gary, for being on. Have a good day.
All right, you too.